Droners, before we get into this money talk real quick, thank you guys for submitting for the competition that we did for the contest to give away stuff away with Drone One Media and John Conrad. He's great. So let me announce the winners really quick because y'all getting stuff. So first off, we have Lawrence Leach, who got a Droner t-shirt, bam. Flash Lawn Service got a Drone One Media t-shirt. Robert Williams, Droner t-shirt, bam. We got David Staff, Drone One Media shirt. Drone Wolf Media, another Droner t-shirt. IMNNO got a Drone One Media shirt, and the grand prize of a Flee $250 flight dropping system thing goes to Ryan P. Congratulations, everybody. Thanks for entering. We're giving away more stuff. Droner. What's up, Droners? And welcome to another Droner Dialogue. And honestly, this is a conversation with you guys that I'm just keep it real. I've been avoiding. It's a very difficult and sensitive subject. I honestly would even go as far as to call it controversial. And it's something that you guys bring up constantly in the comments, and you'll probably notice I'm noticeably absent from when you ask this question. Every single time I talk about being a professional drone pilot, everybody always says, well, how much do you charge? And there's really good reasons why I've avoided talking about this. First and foremost is that, I like my prices to go up. So like, I don't want to date myself and say, here's my prices. But the biggest reason is honestly because pricing for this kind of occupation and what we're doing is very, it's a challenging thing, and it's variable based upon what the project is. You get some people who want you to show up next door to your house and fly a regular Phantom for an hour on their farm, or you'll have a production that wants you to handle the nighttime waiver and fly, an Inspire 2 or an Inspire 1 Raw or a Matrice or something like that, and they want you to do that in a place where there's a bunch of people. It's just like a very hard logistical thing where you have to educate, and there's just a lot going behind it. So the pricing really changes drastically based upon the jobs. But what I decided I was gonna do is talk to you guys a little bit about how I price. I'm actually, give you guys some numbers, which I'm super reluctant to do, because I know there's gonna be a firestorm in the comments, but I'm gonna be with you guys. So you guys start commenting, then I'm gonna be there. I'll be answering the questions. So don't feel free to do it. Just know that I definitely was about making this video. First off, let's start off talking about a phenomenon that's happening in entertainment right now in general, which does translate to drone operators of all kinds, is that, technology for cameras has increased so rapidly that there's people, almost everybody, the barrier to entry to be able to have a professional setup, a professional camera and lights and all that kind of stuff is much lower. It costs a lot less money to have that now. And because of that, there are people who go in and undercut everybody else on the prices of what it actually should cost for livable wages. So for example, let's say it should cost $10,000 to do a 3-day shoot with, let's say, a Red or whatever kind of camera that you have and the professional lighting packages, and you're doing this big shoot that should cost $10,000. But then somebody who just got the camera because their dad has a bunch of money or something like that, and just really wants to work, will say, well, I have all this professional equipment because I can afford it now because someone's rich and I know how to use it, but I don't really need money. I just want to work. And they'll go in and they'll undercut the price and say, I can do the whole thing for $1,500. Right now, if you go to Los Angeles Craigslist and look up what camera operators what people are looking for, they're looking for somebody with a Red to be able to shoot 3 days and whatever kind of thing. And they're gonna be charging they're gonna say, we have $400. And then some idiot's probably gonna do that. They're actually gonna do it, and it's hurting everyone. And that's a huge danger that's happening in the drone industry right now. There's a lot of different aspects of people that you're hiring, and different levels of people that you can hire. So first thing I want to talk about is legacy, what I call them. These are all names I make up, but is legacy drone pilots. And these are the guys that are pretty much like electrical engineers and actual pilots and things like that, who've been around and doing drone stuff with the huge octocopters, the Altas, these huge machines that carry the bigger cameras that they had to carry to be able to get the professional quality look, the professional stability and all that. These guys, are the ones that had the 333 exemption. And they, 10 years in, they've been going at it for a long time. I know some of these guys. Dan Copeland from Sky Bandit Pictures is one of these guys. And these guys have spent so many hours and time to be able to become the professionals that they are, that they charge a lot more than other people might. So let's just set a standard. Let's say that for a day of drone operating for them on one of their drones, they'll charge $7,500. And that's just what they charge, because they had to go through and get all the training to get the 333. They have to have the insurance, and they also have to understand and be an expert of the drone stuff that they have. They have to be an expert of being able to fix an issue on the set if there's a problem with this incredibly complex tool that is the octocopter that they're flying. And these guys have been flying since before there was GPS stabilization. These guys are flying before even some drones had ADI mode. These guys are flying straight up just like, this is just a machine in the air that they're straight up keeping manually keeping it where it needs to go and keeping it safe. And then, of course, DJI came along and a bunch of other Unique and 3DR came along, and they reduced the barrier of entry of what it takes to become a drone pilot. And then Part 107 came out and made it so that you don't have to have some form of pilot or airman certificate or airman's license to be able to be a professional drone pilot, and now it doesn't take as much. And I actually got started before that, right before the 333, right before the Part 107 came out. And that's really when I started getting to drones, is in 2013. So that's the legacy people. And then you have the new professionals, is what I call them. These guys are the ones who are insured. These are the ones who do have Part 107. These are the ones who know what they're doing. These are like me. And what I do, like I said, is because I already worked in television before I got into drones and worked in this industry, I already had established clients for my company, because I have a production company that I own. And we already had established clients, and it was just like adding in the drone thing. And a lot of our clients are web content. So they don't need us to be flying an ARRI Alexa or...
We're moving.
Yeah, so yeah, I'm moving. Like I said, there's just stuff everywhere, guys. Sorry about that. But they don't need me to be flying an Alexa or a Red or anything like that. And then you have the lower tier guys that actually may or may not have a Part 107, definitely don't have insurance, and they just happen to know people or put their name up on Craigslist, and they'll undercut everybody. And they'll just be like, oh yeah, you want Phantom 4 Pro for a day? Yeah, that's $350. Like, I just show up with my Phantom 4 Pro and just do it. And they make it so that everyone else on that entire scale has real issues. And thus the reason of me even hesitating to put my prices out there on this video like I'm about to do, is the biggest reason is because, I don't want to be the person that's undercutting these guys or even undercutting some of the guys that are here. And it's hard to know who those people are or what it is, because it's regional, it's based upon the project, it's based upon everything. But you guys have been asking for it, I've been mulling it over, and so here's the general here's the general standard of how I approach pricing. Because I don't use these prices for every single client. What I do is I say, these are my standards, then based upon the client, then I will make the price be different, or the situation. So outside of projects for my company specifically, or just cool things that I like to do for myself, but mostly for things for my company, if I'm getting hired by an outside source to be a drone pilot, drone professional, and pilot in command, the lowest level I will offer any client is a Phantom 4 professional. And the lowest level I'll offer them on that is just a single pilot Phantom 4 professional. And my base rate for that is $1,000 for a day of work. And a day of work consists of 8 hours of work. I also let the client know that how many batteries I have, what the flight time is, what the charge time. And we have contracts that work for all of that. But that is the base level. And I also let them know that I'm going to need someone to be my visual observer from their production crew. They're not going to pay me to bring my visual observer, because you can train somebody to be a visual observer sometimes, especially if it's an easier gig. All depends on what the project is. Like I was saying, if it's an easy project on somebody's farm, on a property that's nowhere near any airports, in the middle of the day, then that's the easiest thing in the world. And you're like, fine, no problem. Like, give me just, like a PA, and I'll just do that. And sometimes they're like, what's a PA? Because some of the clients that hit me up aren't even in entertainment at all. They're like, oh, we're fashion people and we want to have drones at our photo shoot. And I'm like, that don't make no damn sense. Why would you want drones at a photo shoot? You have to actually talk through and educate a lot of people about what the drone laws and all that. So that's my base start rate, $1,000. So the biggest drone offering that we do is the Inspire 2. And I mean, we do offer bigger in the sense of I normally have to bring in outside people, like if we don't want to fly like somebody else's camera, like an Alta or a Matrice 600 or something like that. That's different. That's a whole different ball game. I'm not going to talk about that because I don't think that's what we're here to talk about. So the biggest one that I'm saying I'm offering as my company, Transit Pictures, and the way that we work is that you'll have the Inspire 2. And with the Inspire 2, with the full crew of 3 people, we have a pilot in command who also is the person most likely flying, the gimbal operator, which is super important, and the visual observer that we have, then we're going to be looking at somewhere around $4,500 to $4,000. And that's just what it costs for a day of operation for 8 hours of work. So yeah, that's the range, $1,000 to $4,000. That's just the range for that. So you're looking at that and you're like, okay, cool, that's your range, but there's also other variables. For example, things that go on top of that price are what kind of prep work do you need? What kind of insurance is there? When I say prep work, I mean like if they have a location that's not an easy location, in the sense of like, yeah, we want to fly off of Hollywood Boulevard in Los Angeles. It's like, that's the prep work for that, like to be able to make that happen, even if it's possible, is next level. You know, it's like you got to work with FMLA or whatever permitting office it is. You have to be able to figure out the way to do crowd control. There's a lot of pre-work that has to be done as the pilot in command and the drone professional to educate the production or the individuals or the businesses that are wanting to hire you, so you can say, you have to manage your expectations and say, here's what we can do, here's what we can't do, here's the permitting and all that, because most people don't know how to do the drone permitting. So you have to go through and get all the permits, make sure that your insurance is in line and you have enough insurance, which is expensive in itself. I did a whole video on that, check it out. But you have to make sure that you have all that in line. Or even if you have to get waivers to fly over people, waivers to fly at night, waivers to fly in airspace that you shouldn't normally fly in. So all that is prices on top of it, and I charge separately for separate days of work for that, and that's anywhere from $500 to $1,500 a day, depending on what they're asking me to do. Another thing that happens is many clients will do the paperwork themselves. They'll say, no, we have a production team that will do that. We have a production coordinator, manager, line producer, whatever. They'll handle all the paperwork. All you have to do is show up with your drone, and your insurance. Normally they don't have drone insurance because drone insurance is very specific. It's aviation insurance. So normally you have to be the one providing the insurance. And you can upcharge for that too. It just really depends on what the client is. You say, hey, like I can fly with my bird, and you can really break down the cost. And that's what I do is I send them an invoice and say, hey, look, here's the people you're paying for, here's the equipment you're paying for, and here's the insurance you're paying for. So they understand how you get up to $4,000 or how you get up to whatever the price is. You just outline it out. Here's what it is, here's how much it's gonna cost, and here's how long it's going to take, and here's the things you need to know. What you have to understand is that how you charge your prices, you obviously want to charge as much as you can and what works for you. And you have to understand that you have to charge based upon your experience. Like for me, I have flown in something like 16 countries and I've been doing it since 2013. So even on top of that experience, a lot of clients like to see other clients that you worked for. So we give them our previous client list, which is long, and say, look, here's all of the other trusted clients that you've heard of before that I've actually flown for before. And they're gonna wanna know that they're not taking on this huge liability of some dude who never has worked before, never done anything before, which is a really big deal. So you really have to be able to look at drones as a liability, first and foremost, as being a pilot in command to keep things safe. And then after that, you look at, okay, how much is my experience, my time, my equipment, and the amount of money I put into this worth? And that's how you set your prices. My biggest recommendation, if you still don't know what your prices should be based upon you're flying somewhere in Montana or Alaska or something like that, the best way to figure out what the local pricing regionally is going to be is to call around to other drone operators. That's what I did. Like just call, find a bunch of other drone companies in your area, act like you're a client, call them up and say, hey, I'm looking to do this gig, and this gig. How much would you charge? And how do you charge? And see how they send their invoices or how their pricing structure works. They'll tell you everything because they have to, because they think you might pay them to do it. So that might sound shady, but first of all, that's like business 101. And second of all, that is how you make sure you're not undercutting people. I did that so I knew that my pricing was competitive with everyone else, knew that I wasn't charging too much and that I wasn't charging too little. Charging too little is the worst thing you could possibly do. Charging too much means you might not get that much business. So you really have to find that sweet middle ground because you don't want to be that guy that undercuts everybody else because you're making the entire industry or the entire region you're working in go down. If you have somebody that does the job that's supposed to be a $4,000 job for $500, then that client might not work with them again because they probably weren't very good, but they're going to have the expectation where drone services now should only cost $500 whenever they work with anyone else. So, you're changing the whole perspective of how drones and drone technology should be looked at or drone work should be looked at. Obviously there's a whole different kind of drone work they're talking about. I'm mostly talking about here is drone cinematography. I'm not talking about drone mapping. I'm not talking about drone inspections or industry use or drones for security. I'm talking about drone cinematography. And if you're still having trouble saying, well, I don't know, I'm just a mom and pop operation or whatever, and you don't know what to charge to do drone cinematography, let me give you a little bit of perspective. Camera operators, non-union camera operators in Los Angeles, typically make between $500 and $700 a day for 10-hour days operating a camera. Now, when I say operating a camera, I didn't say operating their camera. I said operating a camera, which means that they're on the ground with someone else's camera that somebody rented or owns, and they're just literally using it. Liability with that camera is very low because obviously what's the chances you're gonna hurt somebody with a camera? The only thing you're really ever gonna hurt is the camera itself. Operating a drone, definitely much more difficult technically when it comes to liability. So I'm sorry this is a bit all over the place. Obviously this is something that I've been avoiding and I know this is gonna be controversial. Hopefully it'll bring more attention to us, the droner community. I don't know, but take it with a grain of salt. Like I said before, I'm just telling you what I do, what I did, what I charge. A lot of you are just now breaking into the drone industry. A lot of you guys are just now getting interested in doing this. And I want you to do yourself and the community as a whole a favor. Don't undercharge. The reason you don't undercharge is number one, you're worth more. If you're spending the time, the effort, the money to even watch a video like this, which means that you're probably investing time into this. And you're also investing money because you're buying this drone. And that drone is your liability. That means you should be compensated for that. And you should also not make it so that people like myself, who have been doing this for years, aren't going to have our prices questioned all the time because people like someone else is charging so much less for, obviously, I'm gonna say a lesser quality job, but the clients won't know that because they don't know drone stuff that well, because most clients don't. So don't undercharge what you're worth, and don't undercharge what this entire industry is worth and what we do. You know, just think about it, take that advice I said, look at the Los Angeles Craigslist, and you'll see what I'm talking about. Droners, thank you so much for checking this out. Obviously, it was an emotionally charged episode in a transitional space and a thing that I didn't really want to talk about, but I did it. So I need you to do some things for me. First of all, check out this Droner Dialogue because there's more of it and we open up, man. We out here, this professional drone pilot stuff. Or check out other videos like this one that is the opening video of our page, which is amazing. Make sure you support us we put ourselves out there, so we have a Patreon page. If you support that, that'd be huge. Or at the very least, go ahead and subscribe. That it does allow us to do what we're doing. And as always, make sure you stay fly.